Hi, I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips on how to stop procrastinating, which is a very common issue for people doing a dissertation or a big project like a thesis. First, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of concepts you may not know about, which if it's helpful if you can recognize them, because that'll help you stop putting things off. The first is activation energy, the second is displacement. Then I'm going to come back to talk about procrastination itself. In terms of activation energy, once you decide to do something, whether it's pick up a book, get out of bed, start writing something, begin to read a journal article, whatever it might be, you have around 5 seconds before your brain will shut you down unless you act on that initial impulse. So one way to stop delaying things is, as soon as you have that impulse to do something which you know in your mind is going to help you with your dissertation, act on it straight away. Don't stop and analyze it. Don't think I'll do that in a minute or so. A second thing is displacement. This is a concept from Freud. It's one of a number of what he termed defense mechanisms. What displacement is when we're faced with a big and challenging task, the mind or the person, the persona, the self kind of protects itself by not actually looking at or recognizing that task itself, but channeling energy into a safer alternative. So rather than thinking about the thesis or the dissertation as a whole, displacement comes about if you direct, let's say maybe your frustration at it, at a family member or a friend. Activities can be displacement too. So if you find yourself tidying your room obsessively or making sure you have everything organized before you start work, it's important to recognize that that might be a displacement activity. It might be something that you're doing rather than actually confronting the task of finishing your thesis. In terms of procrastinating, one suggestion I would make is try to avoid that general label and instead try and think much more specifically about what is happening at particular times with particular tasks in relation to particular goals. One trick we can play on ourselves is we can tell ourselves the reason we didn't do something is because we were procrastinating. But it isn't really a because. The term doesn't explain anything. It doesn't give us any insight. All we're doing is using this very generic label to justify to ourselves why we have less than desirable outcomes. And the problem is that that label becomes an excuse for us not having done what we should have done. And it then becomes something that it's like a stick that we beat ourselves with, making ourselves feel worse. One thing that can help you with this is if you have goals that are much more specific, and if you plan at the start of the day what goals you want to achieve in the day. A lot of the time people will say something like, what I want to do is spend tomorrow on my literature review. Now that can work for you, but for a lot of people that isn't a sustainable goal because it's too big a thing to do in one day. It can help if you break it down into, let's say, what I want to do today is find 20 relevant articles, or read 5 articles, or write 600 words on a topic, and so on. And then you can schedule tasks. The other thing is that sometimes people find that they can do high skill, high challenging tasks right from the beginning. Other people feel that they need to warm up to those. So if you have particular goals and you can schedule your tasks in such a way that suits your disposition, then that can really help. And of course, if you exceed your day's goals, then that's great. So there's some tips on how to avoid procrastination. I hope that's helpful to you.